My name is Richard Hayes, and at 63 years old, I never imagined I would one day stand on my own porch as a stranger, watching my own family slam the door in my face like I was some burden they finally found the courage to throw away. I spent my whole life providing for them, working double shifts as a construction supervisor, missing birthdays, skipping vacations, sacrificing sleep, and ignoring my own health because I believed a man's worth was measured by how much comfort he could create for the people he loved. But the truth hit me hard the day my son, Noah, looked me in the eye with a coldness I had never seen in him and said, "Dad, it's time for you to move out. You're making life harder for everyone." I thought he was joking. I even laughed. But when my daughter-in-law, Jenna, stepped forward with her arms crossed and her voice sharp enough to cut through steel, saying, "We can't keep taking care of you. You're old, stubborn, and you slow everything down," I realized it wasn't a joke. It was a decision, a plan, something they had discussed behind my back for weeks, maybe months. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. My house that I bought with 40 years of sweat and sacrifice had somehow turned into their house, and I had become the unwanted guest overstaying his welcome. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. Something inside me broke too quietly for noise. I packed a suitcase with clothes, my old watch, my father's photograph, and the little wooden birdhouse my late wife crafted years ago. I walked past my son, who avoided my eyes, and Jenna, who didn't bother hiding her relief. My grandkids were at school. Maybe that was for the best. I didn't want them to see their grandfather being kicked out like trash. As I stepped outside, something inside me whispered, "Walk with dignity, Richard. Don't give them your pain." So I did. I closed the gate behind me and didn't look back. I had no plan. No destination. I checked into a cheap roadside motel and told myself it was temporary. But the first night, as I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the peeling wallpaper, it hit me. I had spent so many years building a family that I never built a life for myself. Everything I did, everything I saved, everything I loved was tied to that house. And now I was alone with nothing but the echo of betrayal. But life has a strange way of repairing broken paths without asking for permission. And my path began to change the morning I met Calvin, the owner of a small diner right across the street from the motel. I walked in for breakfast, half expecting to be ignored like I had been ignored at home for months. But Calvin greeted me like he had been waiting for me his whole life. "You look like a man who needs a good meal and a better conversation," he said with a grin. I didn't even know how badly I needed someone to simply see me until that moment. I didn't tell him everything, just that my family needed space and I was giving it to them. He nodded knowingly, like he had heard that story 1,000 times. Over the next few days, the diner became my refuge. Calvin would sit with me during slow hours, telling stories about his younger years, mistakes, triumphs, heartbreaks. I found myself talking too, laughing, even sharing things I had buried after my wife died. One morning, when I tried to pay for my coffee, he pushed my hand away and said, "Your money's no good today, Rich. Sit down. Eat." That simple kindness cracked something open inside me. It reminded me that even when your own family turns their back, the world still has good people left. 1 week turned into 2. And during that time, something else happened. My health improved. The tension headaches I'd been hiding vanished. My blood pressure stabilized. I slept without nightmares. I didn't feel judged or rushed or belittled. I felt human again. But while I was rebuilding myself, life inside my old house was slowly falling apart, though. I didn't know it yet. It was on the 10th day that everything changed. I was sitting in the diner when a woman walked in, mid-40s, exhausted, eyes red from crying. She kept staring at me like she recognized me. Finally, she said, "You're Richard, right? Noah's dad?" My stomach tightened. "Yes," I said cautiously. She introduced herself as Linda, a neighbor who lived 3 houses down from my old place. Then she leaned in and whispered the words that made my heart pound against my ribs. "You need to come home. Something is happening." I didn't know what she meant, but her urgency pulled me to my feet. I followed her to her car and she drove me back to my neighborhood. When we turned onto my street, I saw it, police cars, flashing lights, neighbors crowding around my house. My heart dropped. I rushed toward the gate, pushing through people. And the scene that met me was something I never expected. My daughter-in-law sitting on the curb crying hysterically. My son pacing back and forth shouting into his phone. And my grandkids clinging to each other, terrified. A fire truck was parked right in front of the garage. Smoke curled out from the broken kitchen window. My home, their home, the home they threw me out of had caught fire while they were inside. Thankfully, firefighters had saved everyone, but the house was damaged so badly that it wasn't safe to stay in. When Noah looked up and saw me standing there, something inside him shifted. His face crumpled with guilt. He walked toward me slowly, like a man approaching the person he wronged beyond forgiveness. "Dad, I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking. Jenna stood behind him, her mascara streaked, her arrogance gone. "We didn't know what we were doing," she whispered. "We shouldn't have made you leave." For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like a burden. I felt like a father again, someone whose presence mattered. The firefighter explained the cause, a faulty wire behind the fridge. A wire I had told Noah about months earlier, a wire I had begged him to let me fix. He had shrugged it off, saying I worried too much. When they realized they had nowhere to go, nowhere to sleep, nowhere safe to take the kids. They looked at me not with entitlement but desperation. And in that moment I realized something powerful. When they pushed me out, it wasn't because I was weak. It was because they thought they didn't need me. But now, standing in front of the smoking shell of the home I built, they finally understood who kept that family standing all these years. Not the house. Not their pride, me. I took a deep breath and said the words they least expected, "You can stay with me." Their faces softened with shame and gratitude. Back at the motel, the grandkids hugged me like they feared losing me again. Noah broke down in tears as he apologized over and over, saying he didn't realize how much pressure he had put on me. How much he had taken me for granted, how much he let Jenna's opinions influence his decisions. Jenna apologized too, not the fake, forced kind, but the raw, trembling apology of someone who finally understood the damage she caused. Over the next days, living together in a tiny motel room, everything changed. Suddenly, Noah woke up early to make me coffee. Jenna cleaned without complaining. The kids stuck to me like glue. And for the first time in a long time, I felt loved, not because I provided a roof, not because I paid bills, not because I fixed things, but because they finally saw my worth. When the insurance company inspected the house, they asked who the legal homeowner was. Noah started to speak, then froze. Because the truth hit him in that moment. The deed was in my name. Not his, not Jenna's, mine. The house they kicked me out of was still legally mine. And when the agent asked whether to rebuild or sell, everyone looked at me. I paused for a long moment, feeling every year of pain, betrayal, sacrifice, and love behind me. Then I made a decision, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. "We rebuild," I said. But things will be different now. And they were. For the first time in years, my family treated me like the father, the man, the human being I always was. And when we finally returned to the rebuilt home months later, it wasn't the house that had changed. It was them. And maybe, it was me too.